Yeah, this is like unofficially or whatever the hell you want to call it. My first video. I mean, I've obviously made videos before, but and really, I'm making this video just to talk about why America is fucked. Yep, we're fucked, at least for the time being, and it's really due to a handful of things. It's obviously a complex issue, but it really just boils down to a handful of things. I've seen protest videos, rights are violated, how they need to play golf. Those are really important things. It's life-threatening if you don't get a haircut. It has some serious problems, like not getting no bitches. Nobody likes to not get bitches. It definitely shows that they haven't experienced any kind of real oppression in their lifetimes. It's just this idea that, like, oh, I'm not fearful of this disease. That doesn't actually care about your demographic or what you look like, because it's a fucking virus. Viruses aren't alive. They don't give a shit. 10 years old, 30 years old, 60 years old. If it wants you to die, they'll kill you. The first problem, really, just to illustrate, is the fact that there are millions and millions of people that are only thinking about how a particular situation affects them personally. They don't think about how that situation affects society, because believe it or not, things in society also affect you personally. That's just how shit goes. Unless you live completely isolated from everyone else in the course of all of your activities as a human being, you will inevitably be tied to society. Again, there's just a lack of empathy on the part of a lot of people, especially in America. It's always this hyper individualistic attitude that really leads to people effectively thinking, okay, I should only care about this when it punches me in the face. Like, you have to get decked in your motherfucking face in order for you to give a shit. And that's just appalling. But it's something that's happened over the years. It hasn't been a sudden thing. We've been conditioned over time to believe that if anything happens to us, it's our fault individually, which is false, obviously. There are lots of unforeseen circumstances, such as this. No one planned for there to be a coronavirus pandemic, but it happened. The second thing being the government. The government is structured in a certain way, so that there are checks, balances, and all sorts of other things to just make it effective. And the number one purpose, really, of a government is to support the populace, not the other way around. A government is necessary. Obviously, if you don't have a government, then you have anarchy. However, what we're experiencing now, and it's just becoming more and more evident, especially due to this crisis, that we do not have a government that supports the people of the United States, and that's at a lot of different levels, but especially at the highest level. And realistically, the government is a reflection on society. You can see a lot of commonalities in how for example, the president behaves compared to especially his supporters. This callous sort of apathetic behavior is commonplace, and it's obviously a negative thing. The crux of this matter is that we don't have a government that is able to take care of the populace, and we don't have things in place within our government to mitigate the disaster, such as this one, that affects everyone. There's no safety net. And a lot of people have talked about this before. Having an infrastructure that can support the people in the event of a crisis should be quintessential. That should be at the forefront. of the government's policies. We had some things in place. We had a PREDICT program, for example, to study animal-borne diseases and how they can transfer to humans and things like that. But that's no longer at play, and that would have obviously come in handy during this crisis. And also the fact that there were lots of warnings that were ignored prior to this happening. So all of those things clearly has an effect. And realistically, a quarantine should be for those who are sick. The fact that everyone is forced to stay inside is more of a testament to how ineffectual our response was. Because if we had prepared properly and started to implement those things, such as widespread testing and just any other preventative countermeasures, we could have been well ahead of the ball curve on this. We could have actually had an effective response. Yes, you can't prevent everything. I mean, that's not possible because this is a virus and you don't always know for sure who it's going to affect all the time. But if we had all of these things in place prior to, then as soon as we got the knowledge that this was coming to our shores, we would have had a more adequate response to it. And that simply did not occur. There was a stimulus package that was passed, the $1,200 one-time payment. $1,200 is not sustainable for a lot of people because a lot of these people are not working. And this is where I understand the grievances of the people that were out in the streets protesting, even though they were protesting for the wrong reasons, really. Because, think about it. You're out there just like, oh, my rights are violated and I can't do this. All these, mundane, not important things. And if you go by that logic, every regulation that exists is somehow a violation of your rights. I can't do 120 on the freeway. You're violating my rights. I'm supposed to be able to do whatever the fuck I want, whenever I want. No, that's not how things work. You have to have regulations, especially when you have a fucking virus out here that's killing people. That said, I understand the grievances of people. They can't work, right? However, despite them not working and not being able to bring in any income, the bills are still piling up. In which case, maybe think about stopping those things. Just the thought, maybe put a pause to all of those bills. I'm saying this to all these companies and anybody who was collecting debt from people. Why? You know what's going on. Have some compassion. Anything, a semblance of, just a shred of humanity. You have things like that, and of course, just this idea that we're supposed to just help ourselves. We're supposed to have an emergency fund. Meanwhile, all these big corporations are needing bailouts using taxpayer funds. Why are we bailing out these companies if they're going to tell us to pull ourselves up from our bootstraps and all that bullshit? Why aren't they doing the same thing? It really just illustrates that all these motherfuckers is broke. If the government had a support network, whether it's monetary, whether it's directed at corporations, anything to relieve the American people from what is going to be an ongoing thing, because this virus isn't going anywhere for a long time, and people have to understand that. People are expecting to just get back to normal, and the reason why people want to get back to normal because they aren't earning. They're still having to pay people. We don't have anything to mitigate that, so people are going to get more. They're already inside, right? Maybe they got like 6 kids and shit inside their house, and they having to deal with that 24/7. Like, fuck all that. Like, nobody want to deal with that. And then you got the bills. Like, come on, bitch. We need a government that is going to support everyone, not just corporations, even the small business administration. They were doling out loans, grants to bigger companies. That should not happen. You should be prioritizing the needs of actual small businesses. Even, it's just on principle. It's just not the right thing to do. Yes, some corporations do need some funding. I'm not saying just abandon them completely, but they are clearly less needy than the people that are working day to day. People who have small businesses that they need to maintain. That's really it. People need to start caring about other human beings, and the government needs to be working on behalf of the populace. Other countries have shown that is possible. And the reason a lot of other countries are able to get back to somewhat of a sense of normalcy is because they have an effective government. They weren't just cast by the wayside and left to fend for themselves. They had real support. So why can't we do the same? We have all this money, but we're acting like a third world country. Like everybody's just scrambling for shit. Like, come on, man. Fuck out of here.